So are women over 40 really invisible? So today we're going to talk about women, aging, and the business of insecurity. So I was a bit late to the party, as always, and I recently discovered on social media what appears to be the truth. Women over 40 are invisible, at least according to a surprisingly high number of posts, videos, articles, experts, influencers, and the usual experts that are actually self-appointed. So the claim that I've seen, it's usually that it's presented with total certainty. It's not even something you can question. If you question it, it's naive. But I was wondering, is it really such an unquestionable truth? I am not so sure. First of all, it is very geographic. That topic is very North American. And North America is obsessed with youth. That's not you. That's not new. More than anywhere else in the world. More than anywhere else that I have traveled, I have lived, I have spent meaningful time. I've never seen so much of a cult of youth than in North America. The beauty industry, the entertainment industry, the wellness industry, the fashion industry, the social media industry, all seem built on the promise that youth is the ultimate currency and that aging is actually a problem that requires immediate intervention. Go to Europe, go to France, where I'm from. People are certainly not indifferent to appearance, quite the contrary. They care deeply about style, about beauty, about elegance. But looking young is not really what they're looking for. That's not the goal. The goal is to be vibrant, is to be interesting, is to be alive, elegant. All of that matter much more than actually feeling young or at least looking young. And, people are way too busy over there enjoying life to spend all day pretending that they are 27. So that makes as well a huge difference. I was playing with this idea, obviously, the fact that women are supposedly becoming less visible with age, it's a fabulous marketing strategy. Like I would say, it's the best marketing strategy that was ever invented. If you think about it for a second, if you can convince someone that they are constantly becoming less relevant, every day you're less relevant than the day before, less desirable, less noticeable, less valuable, well, you have created a client for life. Cosmetics, skincare, hair color, supplements, diet plans, gym membership, fashion, procedures, treatments. Anyway, every industry benefits from that belief, the belief that the current version of you is somehow inadequate. And the worst is that finish line, it keeps moving. So you lose the weight, now you need better skin, then you need better hair, then you need a better wardrobe. And actually, basically, you're supposed to look natural while spending thousands trying to look natural. So the treadmill really never stops. So the more controversial theory as well associated with this idea that, women become more and more irrelevant as they age is one that might get me in trouble. But, I sometimes wonder if keeping women worried about aging serves another purpose, a bit like a shiny object. A woman who is busy wondering whether she's too old, too fat, too wrinkled, too outdated, too irrelevant, well, she's not spending that energy asking over questions. Questions like, why am I paid less? Why am I overlooked for that promotion? Why is my expertise questioned? Or why is my experience undervalued? So insecurity is an incredible, powerful, and useful distraction. Because confident people are much harder, sorry, much harder to manage, particularly confident women. So, the question I keep coming back to, so are women over 40 really invisible? And my answer, I would say, is both yes and no. First, no, they're not invisible. Like your evidence is overwhelming. I have tons of friends, girlfriends over 40, over 50, over 60, some over 70. They all come from different countries, cultures, professions, background, and they are highly visible. I was actually recently in Detroit with a group of women over 40, as well as a gentleman. And I can tell you, these ladies, they were not aware that they were supposed to be invisible. They had a wonderful time ignoring the memo that they were irrelevant. And even more telling, I met this lady above 70. I'm not going to give her exact age. And I can tell you, when she enters a room, the heads turned and people gravitate towards her. Conversation really form around her. She has presence, she has charm, she has charisma, she has style, she has energy, and yes, she also has sex appeal. Let's be honest. Again, nobody seemed aware that she was supposedly aged out of visibility. So at this point, I have to say I have accumulated so many proof points to conclude that no women over 30 are not universally invisible. The data does not support the hypothesis. That's definitely not the case. But yes, sometimes they are. And I think there is, again, a kernel of truth hidden inside the argument. Some women do become less visible as they age, but I don't think age is the primary culprit. I think it's something else that is happening. Somewhere along the way, many women begin unconsciously to, adjusting themselves to the expectation placed upon them. Their clothes become more practical, their makeup becomes safer, their energy becomes more quiet, their priorities becomes, well, everyone else's priorities. So they stop seeing themselves as a woman first, and they stop thinking that they're even relevant themselves. So they become mothers first, they become professionals first, caregivers first, managers first, logistic coordinators first. Anyway, everyone else needs first. So their own presence slowly moves down the list. And I am not talking at all about dressing like a Kardashian, like I'm not an advocate for, plunging necklines and miniskirts, far from it. I am talking about something that's much harder to define: the vitality, the playfulness, the self-expression, a sense that there is still a woman in there and not simply a collection of responsibilities. So sometimes the corporate uniform arrives, sometimes the mom uniform arrives, sometimes life gets busy and practical and exhausting, and slowly, without noticing, a person begins, dressing for function alone. But it's not just about dressing. It's really about moving through life on autopilot. So it's not so much aging, but surrendering, actually. And so whenever I hear this conversation about, women becoming invisible as they age, I think about my mom, because that's definitely not the definition my mom lives by. I remember when I was in my 20s and she was in her 40s. We would often walk, in restaurants together in France. And I can tell you one thing: the attention was never on me, it was on her. And not because she was dressed in some extraordinary way, absolutely not. Not because she wore more makeup, absolutely not. Not because she looked younger than she was, absolutely not. Not because she was very slim, she was not. She simply possessed what the French would call a certain je ne sais quoi. And that elusive quality that we all refer as a je ne sais quoi, which is pretty impossible to manufacture and even difficult to define, like that combination of presence, of charm, comfort in your own skin, of playfulness, a way of engaging with the world that, make people gravitate towards, in particular, my mother, towards her. So looking back, I suspect that this is part of what people mean when they talk about French woman. It is less about beauty in the conventional sense and more about a focus on being rather than appearing. And there is often a certain lightness, playfulness, curiosity, and understanding that, life is meant to be enjoyed, not merely optimized. Because in North America, in contracts, we can feel obsessed with efficiency, with productivity, with self-improvement, and more very rigid beauty standards. And the goal often seems to be perfection. While the French goal, at least traditionally, seems to be closer to seduction in the broader sense, being interesting, being engaged, being alive, being charming. And these are qualities that my mother embodied, like she expected to be seen. And at 75, she still expected to be seen, not because she believed that she was the most beautiful woman in the room, but because she never considered that she should disappear. I think that's very important. And ironically, I was the younger woman and I was the far less visible one. So again, different crowd as well. Might have looked different in a restaurant in the US. Let's say it that way. But there is a dangerous feedback loop here. That there is a real danger, actually, that this invisibility narrative is becoming self-fulfilling. Women are told that after a certain age, they become invisible. Eventually, they begin to believe it. Then they subtly change, their posture changes, their confidence changes, their expectations change, their energy changes, and people respond accordingly. Like the feedback loop has started. And what was initially just a cultural story is slowly becoming an individual reality. So a couple of years ago, I was a front row at a hockey game with one of my girlfriend and one of our male friends. And my girlfriend and I were obviously both already over the magical expiration date that is imposed by social media. Nonetheless, there was a hockey player that he kept glancing in our direction. So my girlfriend and I were too cool for school. We pretended not to notice. We didn't mention it, like the polite woman we are. Obviously, our male friend at some point, had to make a comment because it was noticeable. And so he joked that some younger men have a thing for older women, as if it was some kind of weird fetish to look at us. And so anyway, I smiled, or rather I smirked, not just because it was offensive, because it was definitely offensive and stupid, but because it really revealed something deeper. The assumption is not that attractive women are attractive. The assumption is that attraction requires an explanation. As if finding a woman who's, I don't know, stylish, confident, intelligent, over 40, finding her attractive is somehow of a niche hobby, and I mean, that absurdity speaks for itself. I mean, that's still a comment that shows how pernicious the culture is. And I agree, there is a part that is absolutely true. Youth does possess something special. There is a magic to it. The innocence, the spontaneity, the carelessness, the optimism, the feeling that every door is open. There is something beautiful about witnessing it and something equally beautiful about remembering it. And again, it's not about necessarily the beauty standard. It's also about that energy. And as we get older, we naturally miss parts of that energy, like, and who wouldn't want a little bit of that magic dust back? I certainly would like a bit more of the innocence of my 16 years old. But, maturity brings gift of its own, the confidence, the wisdom, the humor, the self-knowledge, the discernment, like, but more importantly, this ability to stop performing and start living, the ability to care less about whether everyone likes you and more about whether you like yourself. And I think it's a pretty attractive trait. And anyway, it is not a choice we can make, again, aging is what it is. You have no choice but aging. So what are the final thoughts here? Are women over 40 invisible? Some are, many aren't. The ones who remain visible seem to share very little in common regarding their age, their weight, their income, their profession, their appearance. But what they do share is presence. They remain curious, they remain engaged, interested, interesting. They continue to take space, and perhaps that is the real lesson. Visibility has nothing to do with age. It is always about your energy and really taking this space. So the good news, energy doesn't come with an expiration date, so you can feel free to take as much space as you want, regardless of your age. So I hope you enjoy your video. If you did, please press a thumbs up, subscribe, but more importantly, I would love to hear your comment and what you think about this topic. Thank you so much. Have a great day.